it is the first day of the first weekend after Tuesday's interest rate cut. And the ABC's business editor, Michael Yander, is testing the heat in the property market for us and joins us now from an open inspection somewhere in Sydney's southwest. Where are you, Michael?
G'day, Guy. I'm in Punchbowl, a suburb in Sydney's inner southwest. It's probably about half an hour to 40 minutes on the train into the city. We've just been at an open home, 2-bedroom apartment on the ground floor in the block you can see behind me. And I've actually got one of the interested potential buyers who's just been to the open home, Bianca. How are you feeling about the property market at the moment? You've been looking for a few months, I believe.
Yeah, it's been 4 months that I've been looking quite seriously, and looking at doing this every Saturday morning to night with schedules of where I'm going.
And for you, does the rate cut make any difference, like to how much you can borrow, how enthusiastic you are to buy sooner?
I'm still waiting to hear exactly how much more I can borrow, but yes, essentially I've got a couple of places today that were originally outside of my price zone, so I'm going to look at a bit more today, which should be good.
And tough market, a lot of investors out there as well, or are you mainly up against other first home buyers?
In the areas that I'm looking at, most of them happen to be first home buyers, but I have been cut out by a couple of investors in a few places, but with ridiculous price gouging in some areas. But it's been a mix.
And I'm just going to bring Mark Tanner in here. He's a buyer's agent. So your clients, how are they feeling now with the interest rate cut, Mark?
Yeah, no, thank you, Michael. I mean, it's the first time in quite a few years now we've had an interest rate cut. So I think, it's early days, but I'm expecting a bit of optimism to come back into the market. And certainly in suburbs like we are here, in the real suburbs of Sydney, I think there's good opportunity for first home buyers, and I expect more and more interest to come in the weeks to follow.
And how are they finding it with their borrowing capacity? Because that's one of the things that changes with lower interest rates.
Absolutely. I think that's where there's optimism. I expect to see more and more optimism in the market. Again, early days, but with an interest rate cut now, easier to make repayments and borrowing capacity can be increased. So if you're a first home buyer or you're looking to buy, I would strongly suggest to get in early before more and more buyers get in, which could drive up competition.
Yeah, so that's the view from the ground here, Guy.
Michael, historically an interest rate cut hasn't necessarily translated to making housing more affordable. What are your forecasts as to how this might play out in the coming weeks?
Well, you just heard it there from Mark that it might generate a lot of buyer interest. Now, there's different views from the experts. Louis Christopher from SQM Research expects that this is really going to stoke the market and that we might see 3 to 7% price gains in Sydney and similar gains in Melbourne, and much bigger double-digit price gains over the year in cities like Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide. That's on top of already big gains in those cities, but it would be sort of dragging Sydney and Melbourne out of a falling market. But CoreLogic, another property analysis firm, is more circumspect. They say affordability is already very stretched, particularly in the more expensive markets like Sydney and now markets that have gone up like Adelaide and Brisbane. So they're expecting a much more modest response. Traditionally, every percentage point cut in interest rates has a 6% increase in house prices attached to it, but CoreLogic doesn't expect that big a response this time.
Do you anticipate the rate cut is going to do anything to rents?
Look, not directly. It does take some pressures off landlords to immediately push through rent increases to recover their borrowing costs, but really rents come down to supply and demand. We've just seen some fresh figures from SQM Research showing that the rental vacancy rate across Australia has fallen back to 1%. That's a very low level. They think it might be because of the beginning of the year student surge and other migration. Now, if it stays near that level, then it's likely there'll be renewed upward pressure on rents.